Hello, welcome to the James Cooley Show. It's your life. I'm your host, Dr. James J.C. Cooley, and I tell you, wow, we got an absolute fantastic show coming your way today. And I tell you, we are in a year election where we are selecting a new president, and this might be the most important election in our lifetime. And so today, I am going to step out my comfort zone and do something that I normally do not do. And that's talk about politics. But I think it's so important that we do that today. And we got a panel that Michelle going to introduce that to you later. But I'm excited about the show. She'll tell you about the title and everything. And it's so fun. How you doing, Dr. Michelle Cooley? How you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited, just like you, about the show today and our guest panelists, and of course, our esteemed guest co-host.
We got Dr. Michael Mantell. You know what? My mentor. Yeah. How you doing today, Doc?
Doing well. This is a departure from our 360-degree health, as you said, and properly timed. I think that we'll all be looking forward to getting back to that after the this excitement of the election calms a little bit, whatever that'll be.
Whatever that is. I tell you what I want to do. Hey, Todd, how you doing today in San Diego, man? How you doing?
I'm always good, James. I'm excited for today's show, and we're about to lock everybody in here in about 8 seconds.
Yeah, I want to lock all the platforms, television, radio, podcasts, everything. And I tell you,
all right, let's do it.
We're going to do what we got to do.
It's Your Life is sponsored by James J.C. Cooley.
Dr. James J.C. Cooley.
Hello, welcome to the James Cooley Show. It's your life. I'm your host, Dr. James J.C. Cooley. Today, we got a show. Normally, I don't even go there, but I feel that it's so important to talk about just because we got the election coming up, probably the most important election in our lifetime for who is going to lead this great country and lead these great folks. But, you know, there is debate on both sides, and people got their own issues and concerns about both the Republicans and the Democrats. We got a little panel today that we're going to talk, a friendly little panel that we're going to discuss these issues, and we're going to see where some of the issues that the Democrats have, some of the issues that the Republicans have. The main goal of this is to have a panel discussion where we can walk away with our heads up. And, you know, we can agree to disagree, or we can agree or come to some common ground. So I tell you, I'm excited about this. And, I cannot do anything without the executive producer and the co-host, Dr. Michelle Cooley, because Dr. Mike, we got to get our blessing from her.
You bet. Let's get it right now.
How you doing, Dr. Cooley?
I'm doing good.
Wow. This is going to be a different one. And of course, Michelle going to introduce the panel in a minute, but Dr. Mike is going to be my moderator, one of the moderators here, he and I. And I tell you what, I'm looking forward to this. And whichever platform that you're watching us on, whether you're watching us on E360 Television, Transfer TV, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, iHeartRadio, I've been listening to us on a lot of platforms. If you want to be part of the conversation, all you have to do is just go to the platform that you're watching us on, or you can pick up the phone and dial 1-888-344-1170. That's KCBQ AM 1170, answer FM 96.1. Again, that number is 1-888-344-1170. Michelle, can you do the honors and introduce the title of the show, the purpose of the show, and introduce this great panel that we have?
Yes. The title of today's show is Red and Blue 2024, Debates Across the Aisle. And we're having a sit-down discussion with our fellow panelists regarding their views on the presidential candidates and important policies ahead of the 2024 presidential election. First, we have Andrea Kay, who is the host of the Andrea Kay Show, which broadcasts daily 6 PM 1170, The Answer, known as Dynamite in Address because she tells it like it is. No fake news from Andrea Kay. She talks about everything from politics to entertainment and current events from San Diego to DC. Next, we have Judge Benjamin Mantell, currently an administrative law judge for the city of New York, woo-hoo, and an adjunct professor of law at Montclair State University. Judge Mantell previously served as an assistant district attorney in Queens County and as a New York State Assistant Attorney General. And then we have Steven Paletz. He is an attorney and political activist born and raised in San Diego. He currently resides in Denver, Colorado, and serves as a commissioner on the Colorado Economic Development Commission. And we, of course, Dr. James J.C. Cooley, the host, and Dr. Michael Mantell, cognitive behavior coach. And we're going to talk about the following topics: abortion, economy and inflation, immigration reform and border security, healthcare access and Affordable Care Act, foreign policy, tax policy, racial and social justice, climate change and environmental policy, and education and student loans. So let's start the discussion. Our first topic, a conversation, is going to be about abortion.
I tell you what, I want to start off. The abortion is probably one of the biggest things on the issues in this election, and it's driving a lot of people, especially the females, out to vote on this issue because I believe a woman has a right to choose, and I believe that a woman has a right to control her own body. So I want to start off with you. Judge Mantell, what are your thoughts on that?
Sure. Please call me Ben. It's great to be with you, James and Michelle. I know we've been trying to do this for a while, so thank you. I'm glad we were able to do it for such an important event, the election coming up. So first, let me say, in these times where I think we can all agree we're really polarized, we think the other side is living in a different world of different facts, and it's okay for anyone to just lie with impunity on both sides. I'm not pointing the finger in any direction. So I'm happy to be here to try to find common ground and to try to find where we can come together, because I think that because we're so polarized, after next week or whenever we find out the results of the election, I think the most important thing that we can focus our time is on finding common ground and finding out how we can come together, where we can find progress in each other's lives. Having said that, I firmly believe, like you do, Dr. Cooley, in a woman's right to choose and her right to bodily autonomy. I see this issue as even a larger issue than that. I see it as a freedom of religion issue in the United States because everyone has their own religion, everyone, or no religion at all, as is their constitutional right here. And to have the government restrict abortion in certain circumstances takes away my right to turn to my religious leader or not to make that determination. And so that's really behind my motivation. Having said that, I think there's circumstances where we all agree on both sides, maybe with some very extreme fringe exceptions, where we can come together. And I think those are the areas that I'd like to spend time focusing on. I think finding that space where we agree is the most productive use of our time.
Wow. Andrea, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me here today, JC, and for stepping outside your comfort zone, because a lot of people don't want to engage in politics today. They're scared. There's too much of a cancel culture happening today, where if you speak your mind freely, you're somehow going to be punished or persecuted for it in some way. So I want to commend you for doing the show today. A couple of things when it comes to abortion, and I'm the only woman on the panel. But I don't think that means the idea that women are only the people that are allowed to have a conversation about this is ridiculous. It takes men and women to make a baby. So I'm glad that there's men weighing in on this issue. So a couple things about abortion. As a woman, one of the things, and by the way, I tell my listeners on my show and friends that I know that I don't advocate for party or pol. I advocate for ideas. I'm an idea person, and my ideas, have always trended conservative. When it comes to abortion, it never made sense to me, the argument, even as a young woman, your body, your choice, for a couple of reasons. It's not your body. It is another human being with separate DNA. Second of all, it never made any sense to me to hear the argument of bodily autonomy because I'm not able to sell my kidneys on the open market. I'm not able to sell my corneas on the open market. We do not have bodily autonomy in this country. We don't have the right to go into a doctor and cook up and do whatever we want to do with our bodies. We don't have that. And certainly under COVID, the people that are continuing to try to make, and I would also disagree with you a little bit, JC, abortion is not really the number one issue in this country. The left wants to make it the number one issue in this country in many ways in order to divide us and in order to ignore and try to get us talking about that instead of the real number one issue for most voters, which is a combination of the border issues as well as inflation. So, but it's some of the same people that want to talk about bodily autonomy for women that were forcing women to get injected with a vaccine that they didn't believe in and didn't want to be injected. Women aren't supposed to eat tuna salad in this country, but they were forced to take a jab or lose their jobs. We didn't have bodily autonomy when we were forced to wear masks under COVID, when businesses were shut down, when we were told we had to stand 6 feet away from people. So the very people that are arguing on behalf of abortion are using a false argument with freedoms that we're not allowed to have anywhere else. I'm glad that Roe v. Wade was overturned because 9 people, I'm not a comma JD, I'm not an attorney, but even I could tell that was bad law. And I'm glad on top of the fact that we are a republic of states and it needed to be returned to the people and not have 9 people in robes deciding this issue for the American people. And that's really where it needs to be. It doesn't need to be with Kamala Harris taking it back to DC and she won't even say at this point. I'm glad that my fellow panelists said, let's talk about where we can agree. Well, the vast majority of Americans, even pro-choice Americans, believe that there should be restrictions, and certainly they're against late-term abortion. But we can't get Tim Walz yesterday in an interview refused to answer if he would have any limitations, Kamala Harris as well. I think if we want to unite and if the Democrats really want to bring some Christian women to their ranks, they might want to support restrictions on abortion because I consider it barbaric for the late-term abortions that are happening in this country. And I want to correct the record on behalf of the media outlet that did the debate. There are multiple states in this country that have no restrictions on abortion. And in Minnesota, 8 babies died after they survived the abortion procedure. And that should not be happening in this country.
Well, I'll tell you what, hold that thought, Ben. We're going to take a station break. As you see, this is getting ready to get out.
We haven't even started with Steven yet.
Yeah, I tell you what, we're going to take a station break. And if you want to be part of this great conversation, a couple of ways you can do it. You can pick up the phone and dial 1-888-344-1170. Or you can go to the platform that you're watching us on, whether it's E36 Television, Transfer TV, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, or whether you're listening live on our radio, Spotify. All you have to do is just go to the platform or call in. And I promise you, we'll get you an answer. We're going to come back with more of this topic. So I tell you what, dream big, think big, and be big. Grab you a couple of bags of popcorn because we are getting ready to bring it. It's your life. And we'll see you shortly after the break.
There's more stories of greatness to help you overcome adversity. Coming up on It's Your Life with James Cooley.
Ain't that one party, y'all? James Cooley Show. It's your life. Dr. James J.C. Cooley.
Really get a chance to know who you are. And once you know who you are, you truly know who you are, love who you are. Love who you are. You're a masterpiece. Love who you are. Love who you were born to be. Love me some me. That's what I'm talking about. When you leave high school, you gotta know today or tomorrow, or hopefully today, what your plans are. Hopefully, there is no bad decision unless there is no plan. Create, collaborate, commit with confidence. Commit with what?
Commit with what? And everything that you do.
Noah Dingley here, producer of The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. And the new audio version of James' book, Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet, is a must-have. James shares his true life story of struggle and success in America. It's both a cautionary tale and a roadmap to achieving the American dream. Get the new audio version of Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet by James Cooley on Amazon.com or wherever audiobooks are sold.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's Your Life, and I tell you what, I'm excited about that first segment that we just had, and Andrea, I get your point. I mean that was pretty good. That was pretty good.
Well, thank you, JC. Good praise coming from you, my man.
Oh yeah, well we're gonna give somebody a chance to rebut.
You're right.
Okay then. Bring it.
I know that. I know Steven for a very long time, and this guy always has a different angle. So, Steven, what's the angle you take on this abortion topic?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm really excited to be here with y'all, and I really appreciate, JC, what you've put together here, and I'm really looking forward to the next hour together. You know, I look at this issue a little bit differently, and I'll use Nebraska as an example, where President Trump is up in the polls by 15%, and yet you have a right to an abortion ballot initiative in that state, where early polling is showing a 4% lead supporting that initiative. So to the point that Americans don't want some sort of rights to abortion, I think that in a state that's known as a conservative state, you still have support for that issue being on the ballot. So I think what the court did in its decision, and from a legal perspective, the concept of a case having been decided and being law for close to 60 years and then being overturned, I think really opens up the court, when at some point in the future, whether that's in 5 years or 20 years, when Democrats come back into the majority on the court, I don't think that conservatives would be happy if all of a sudden all the cases that had been decided before by a Republican majority are suddenly overturned. So I think the concept of a case has been decided and that being law for 60 years should remain the case. I hear your point, but I think it creates a dangerous precedent, to overturn case law that's been there for 60 years. And what that's opened up is now you see states where this was not on the ballot and not part of the conversation being introduced as an initiative. And part of my concern with the initiative process is very often those are, citizen initiated petitions, and the way they're drafted often opens up more questions and more issues, and could have a state like Nebraska where, no one would ever want to see a late term abortion. And I certainly don't, want to see those happening anywhere. But because of, imprecise laws that come from citizen initiated petitions, you may have that in Nebraska now as well. And that has been opened up because you've gotten rid of a law that had been in place for 60 years. So legislatures really hadn't legislated around the issue because of the barriers that were in place by Roe v. Wade. So I do believe most Americans want to see some sort of, right. But I also think most Americans want to see guardrails as well. And I would love to have seen the court, take that approach as opposed to throwing their hands up and creating a lot of the chaos that we have now. Because I think that puts women, whose bodies are on the line when a state, has restricted abortion, after 6 weeks, and they have a health issue that, may fall into that category, I think that the court has now presented them with a situation where they're now their health is now at risk because a lack of legislation has been in place at the state level because this has been handled for so long by the federal government. So those are my thoughts on the issue.
Andrea, do you want to comment, or Ben, you want to add something?
Well, I mean, yeah, I can jump in here in terms of if it comes out like in Ohio, in the state of Ohio, it was returned back to the states and the people in Ohio have spoken, they added it to their constitution. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem from a pro-life standpoint, but I think it's always a mistake to have, a centralized, we're supposed to be a republic of states, not a centralized system of power with control over the citizens. And certainly, I feel like it's a little, it's a little demeaning to the citizens to say, if we give it back to the people, we're just going to have this chaos. It needs to go back to the people. We have, and my message to my pro-life friends is the same. At your state level, if you're concerned about what's happening in states like Ohio or Nebraska, where there's, pro-choice initiatives on the ballot, and do the battle at the local level. Stop expecting it to happen in DC. That's not the place for it, number one. And number two, I'm for any, I've never believed in precedent to be, just because the Supreme Court crafts law or makes a decision that means that it's in stone forever. That's a great way for somebody to pack the court and then just push through all of their agenda and have them legislate from the bench instead of upholding the Constitution and giving them a branch of power that was not intended to them by the founders. And so I feel like we're kind of getting away from the issue because there's legal issues around it. Ultimately, it's not, I want to wrap by saying it's not her body, her choice. It's an entirely separate human being. And that's where I'd like to see the argument to be among citizens at the state level.
Something that you said, Andrea, right at the beginning, when JC introduced this topic, and he said, this is the number one issue. Right off the bat, we can go in 50 different directions because what is one person's number one issue is not the other person's number one issue. Mm-hmm. It seems to me that we can talk about the economy. We can. Yes. I don't talk about the border or immigration. To me, it's a safety issue. It's a human rights issue. The border is a big, title, clickbait title. But there's so many ways to describe what's important. But let's talk about the economy, perhaps, as the next topic to bring up here. JC, do you want to pick up on that?
I think Michelle's going to lead that one.
Okay.
I'll pop in for a second.
Michelle?
Yes, I just want to make a comment on the economy, inflation. As you know, there's this United States, there's so many people who are living paycheck to paycheck. And then there are others who are, and there's nothing wrong with that, who are wealthy and they don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from. They don't have to worry about the rent. The economy, inflation is important to everybody. And we want to hear, audience, we want to hear the thoughts on this panelist regarding their stand on the economy and inflation and what they feel is being done and not being done. So I'm going to give it to you, James, to touch base with the panelists.
Well, I want to add a little bit to that because, the things that I watch news pretty much all day long. I mean, they're trying to, and some of the ideas for the future. I think the Republicans are concerned about yesterday and all the things that happened 8 years ago, opposed to what's going on today. I think we have to be futuristic about the economy, inflation, and everything, and have a vision for all people, not just some other people. And also as it relates to how we're going to build the economy, not just for today, but for the future. And I don't think, I know President Trump, saying that tariffs, everything about tariffs. That is not going to do it, tariffs, because if you put a tax on tariffs, everything coming in, everybody in the United States are going to have to absorb that cost. So The economy today, I think, is right now, looking at it today and last week, is a lot better than it was a year ago or 2 years ago. So Andrew, what are your thoughts on this?
There's so much. The issue with discussing economics is that it's so much more complicated in so many different ways, and it doesn't fit on a bumper sticker, right? The reality of economics doesn't. Let me say it in another way. There's so many great bumper sticker platitudes that appeal to American people that are misleading. Everybody deserves to own a home. Nobody should ever have to, die because they couldn't afford health insurance, and all these great platitudes that are really about trying to indoctrinate and sell the American people on income redistribution and socialist and communistic policies. If we really want a rising tide that lifts all boats, what we need to do is ease taxation and ease regulation. The basics of economics doesn't change whether or not the money is in my wallet as a woman, whether or not that money is in the hands of somebody of color, Asian, Black, or whatever. The basics of economics are the same. And if we're going to look forward, we need to look forward to a return to economic principles that made this country great. And it was low taxation and low regulation. Donald Trump led us to the greatest economic revival in my lifetime that I can remember. And probably the greatest thing that he did was ease regulations. I've known business people here in California that literally had to come into their office every day and decide which regulations they were going to adhere to because they couldn't keep their business operating otherwise. There's an entire industry here in Southern California that is designed around taking manufacturing and companies here in California and taking them to Mexico, because we have completely destroyed our industry here with all kinds of socialist sounding great, a living wage, all these, fast food workers making $25 an hour, these kinds of things, these regulations that strangle industry. You lower taxation, you lower regulation, and that's when you jumpstart an economy that makes it possible for everybody. Instead, what we're hearing from the other side is more regulation, more regulation. We want to give this group of people a free down payment to buy a house, which is discriminatory on its face, and everybody ultimately has to pay for it anyway. Oh, these people got a student loan that they should have never signed their name to it. We don't want them burdened. They get their loan paid off, but everybody has to pay for it. The government makes no money. It has no money. If it distributes money, it has to take it from a citizen who worked hard and earned it, or borrow it from somebody else. And these are some of the basics of economics that I wish Americans were taught, so that they wouldn't buy into the good sounding platitudes coming from so many in politics.
Hold that thought. We're going to take a station break, but we come back. Hey, Steven, I ain't forgot about you. I haven't forgot about you. We're going to come back. We're going to get Steven's thoughts on that, and we also going to get Ben's thoughts on that. But I tell you what, you want to be part of the conversation, I'll make it easy for you. All you have to do is just go to the phone, pick it up, dial 1-888-344-1170. Again, that's 1-888-344-1170. Or whichever platform that you're watching this on, all you have to do is just go to the comments, ask any question that you might have. I promise you, we'll get your answer. It's your life, and we'll be back with this panel shortly after the break.
There's more stories of greatness to help you overcome adversity coming up on It's Your Life with James Cooley.
Craving a slice of Chicago right here in Temecula wine country? Then dive into legendary Chicago deep dish style pizza at Rosati's Pizza Pub. Piled high with gooey cheese, rich tomato sauce, and your favorite toppings, Rosati's delivers the taste of the Windy City right to your table or front door. Enjoy the cozy pub atmosphere and an impressive selection of Temecula wines. Come on down to Rosati's Pizza Pub for your slice of Chicago right here on Rancho California Road, or order online at myrosatis.com. Rosati's, where Chicago deep dish pizza meets Temecula charm.
Hello, I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley from the United States of America, and I am here to just say, first of all, I'm so happy and honored to be on it. to be in the Coffee Book 2023. Unified Brain Z and the other organizations, thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this collection.
Or needs to understand that their current situation is not their final destination. Country Boy, City Boy, a journey that ain't over yet, is the unfiltered truth to provide hope for the future by challenging you to refuse to become a victim of life's circumstance and dare to become an overcomer, because a bigger, better, and more impactful life awaits you. Get the new audio version of his book, Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet, by Dr. James Cooley, on Amazon or wherever books are sold.
Yeah. Dr. James JC Cooley.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I'm tickled pink. Hey, Todd, I know you locked in. What are your thoughts, Todd? What are your thoughts so far?
Well, great show so far. You have some great panelists on there. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get right back to them.
Wow, I think we got a caller online on one. Do we have a call on line one, Todd?
Yes, Riley on line one. What's your question or comment?
So I just want to say thank you, of course, for letting me call in. I just had a quick question because, about this note of the economy, it's my top issue far and away. And I keep hearing Kamala Harris and the Harris campaign talk about building an opportunity economy. I'm not sure what specifically that means, but I'd like to just ask about everyone's thoughts about what that might mean and why we would trust her with the economy.
What are your thoughts, Steve, on that?
Sure. Well, I'm not here to speak for the Harris campaign, but I certainly, as an individual, am quite happy with where the economy is today after 4 years of President Biden. You look at the stock market, you look at gas prices that are down from where they were at the start of the Biden administration. Stock market higher than ever, and to me, the opportunity economy is how do you translate that success for some into success for everybody in this country? Because not everybody holds stock or benefits when their company does well. And so to me, having a president that is committed to having an economy that works for everybody, I certainly don't believe in socialism. I want to be very clear about that. But, I do think it's interesting on a federal level that, 7 out of 10 states that benefit from, federal government, you want to call it redistribution, are red states. The average for a red state is $1.24 in federal spending for every dollar that they put in to federal taxes. So, I'd worry for certain red states of what would happen if we suddenly had a federal government that was not collecting taxes and working to create a country where everybody has a fair shot of getting ahead. And so, to me, the Biden administration has done well. I think they've been hampered in the last couple of years by a conservative House that were dead set on making sure that he didn't pass any legislation that actually made the lives of Americans better. And I'm hopeful that we'll see a Democratic House and a Senate that's willing to work with President Harris to get things done and create an economy that creates opportunity for everybody, so that we can all benefit from what I know my 401k has benefited from, but I recognize many Americans don't have those benefits and opportunities. And I'd love to see everybody benefit from that economy. So those are my thoughts.
What are your thoughts, Ben?
Well, again, my motivation primarily in being here is finding out where we can come together and help as many people as possible. I think that, the idea that economics can't be put on a bumper sticker, I think is one of the most important points. No tax on tips. It's a great idea. And actually, I'm for that. But that is a bumper sticker. Tariffs in place of taxes is, I think, a bumper sticker. But I think you mentioned manufacturing. There's a reason why we don't want to bring all manufacturing back to the United States. We have programming, we have computer programmers, Elon Musk's companies are American victory stories. These are fantastic things that we want to have. The only reason why somebody can spend time as a computer programmer in the United States now, though, is because somebody in another country is able to manufacture the parts and the chips and the other things, and that go into supporting these amazing, groundbreaking ideas, world-changing ideas. I think it is a lot more complex than just saying we're going to bring all manufacturing back home. We're going to strengthen the power of the dollar. There are circumstances where you don't want a strong currency, depending on whether you're importing or exporting. These are very nuanced ideas. And so I agree with you. I think one of the most important things to keep in mind when thinking about the economy is that it can't fit on a bumper sticker. These are very nuanced ideas.
I'll tell you something. The Wall Street Journal did a study, and again, we can find a study all over the map. So I'm just going to highlight this one. But the Wall Street Journal did a study, and they found that 68% of economists said inflation would go higher if Trump's policies were to go into effect, while only 12% said it would be higher under Harris's plan. The other 20% said it would make no difference. Now, what does that mean? I mean, this is the point. We can find data on this side. We can find data on this side. Go to CNN, MSNBC, Fox. You can find whatever you want. And that doesn't leave us Americans necessarily, quote unquote, sure and in the know, just because I read it in the Wall Street Journal. But I wonder if, the idea here is, as you said, Ben, so eloquently a couple of times, what can we agree on here? We agree we want Americans to live better. We agree that if someone is living paycheck to paycheck, we want to do whatever we can to help them experience that in the best way they can.
May I jump in real quick?
Go ahead. Sure.
Before we change the topic, I actually think, Ben, you've got a great idea of putting. When I was referring to bumper stickers, I was referring to platitudes. I actually would love to see a no tax on tip, but I want to make sure bumper sticker. But I want to make sure Kamala stops claiming that as her idea, because it wasn't. I think if it, and I'm kind of surprised to hear the panel. I'm glad everybody on the panel is doing great, but make no mistake, the economy is the number one issue for Americans because they are suffering. The average American cannot afford to feed their families. It is not. The inflation is still a crisis in this country. It is. Has gas prices gone down? Okay, maybe it's not $6 a gallon in San Diego anymore. It's only $5.49.
Andrea, can I interrupt you? Do you really think that the quote unquote average American, whatever the heck that means, cannot afford to feed their family?
Yes.
I
think average Americans right now are struggling.
That's different.
To when it comes to
that's different. Struggling is one thing, but to say an average American can't afford to feed family, I think it's hyperbolic.
I don't think it's hyperbolic. I think it's the reality of what I hear from people. I think it's the reality because it's a combination of the fact that the inflation numbers are not honest with the American people. Everybody knows that the cost of food is up 50%. The cost of energy is skyrocketing. What it costs to pay for gas as well as to heat your home or air condition your home. Rents have skyrocketed. It is not just about the loaf of bread, and the American people understand that. And we can't just say that the open border is not an economic crisis on its own when we have Americans that are not able to tap into food banks and other programs for them because it's all going for the illegal aliens that have broken into this.
Panelists, we have to. How different it would be if we didn't say things like we can't afford to feed families, and we said instead they're struggling. Sorry,
I
Michelle.
don't want to. I'm sorry. It's okay. We have to take a break now. We got to pay the bills. But next segment, we are going to talk about
Immigration.
Immigration and the border policy. It's Your Life with Dr. James J.C. Cooley. Always informative.
There's more stories of greatness to help you overcome adversity. Coming up on It's Your Life with James Cooley.
A black
Dr. James J.C. Cooley. The James Cooley Show. It's your life.
town and realization that life would never be the same. Cooley lays out his struggle to adjust from city life to country life and back again, sharing his hard-earned lessons to educate, encourage, and enlighten our next generation of leaders and heroes. Get your copy of Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet by James J.C. Cooley, available on Amazon and everywhere books are sold.
Craving a slice of Chicago right here in Temecula wine country? Then dive into legendary Chicago deep dish style pizza at Rosati's Pizza Pub. Piled high with gooey cheese, rich tomato sauce, and your favorite toppings, Rosati's delivers the taste of the Windy City right to your table or front door. Enjoy the cozy pub atmosphere and an impressive selection of Temecula wines. Come on down to Rosati's Pizza Pub for your slice of Chicago right here on Rancho California Road, or order online at myrosatis.com. Rosati's, where Chicago deep dish pizza meets Temecula charm.
Dr. James J.C. Cooley. The James Cooley Show. It's your life.
Hi. Hi, welcome back to It's Your Life with Dr. James J.C. Cooley. I think he's on mute right now.
He is.
Yes, he is. Well, welcome back to the show. We have
There
you're back, babe?
Yeah, I was just saying that I'm tickled pink because this, as we discussed when we first opened the show, a conversation, everybody agreed, disagreed, no swinging the punches or nothing like that. We need 2 hours for this. I wish I might have to talk to Steve and we do this again Tuesday or something like that. So because I don't know if the panel will be available to do that. But we got a lot of things that we're not going to reach today that I think that need to be discussed. So if we can do this, we can do it. Andrew, I don't know if you'll be available.
I think, yeah, I'm up for it. And I promise I won't talk so much next time.
Ben and Steve, and
You're just
Mike.
passionate. You're just passionate about.
Yes.
You're passionate. So we definitely appreciate that.
What
What
is
about
about.
you,
Healthy-
Steve?
healthy
Are you
fashion.
available, Dr. Mike?
Yeah, good for it. We can look at it.
Okay, you know, so
I'll
let's
make it happen.
Michelle and I talk about this afterwards, but I tell you, we got Larry. Larry been holding on patiently on the line, and Larry, welcome to the show. I know you got a question for the panel. Larry? Hey, Todd, is Larry still there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. I'm here.
Hi, Larry.
Thank you for Andrea and y'all for inviting me. I just wanted to make one quick comment, though, on what the other individual said. I forget his name, who just mentioned that whether people can eat or not. I think the question is, what are they eating? If you want to know the truth, they're eating pasta, they're eating at McDonald's, or they're eating, inferior foods because they can't afford to eat. And I guess the other point I wanted to weigh in on is the whole issue. Everybody discusses, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that with the taxes. Well, it is very speculative whether any of this stuff can get through Congress. And even if President Trump wins, or for matter, the other side wins, Kamala Harris, there's going to be a lot of opposition. And it's going to be, I think, very, very difficult to get anything through Congress. So it's great to promise. And the American people, are led to believe, frankly, by both sides, that just because the president says that it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I think that's something that has to be taken into account.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you.
Larry, are you still on, Larry?
I'm here.
Okay, Larry, I have a question. What do you think it is about that there's such opposition on either side that they won't let something get through to help, as you're pointing out?
Well, because of the rancor that's been created. I mean, look on the Republican side. If you start calling people Nazis and dictators and Hitler and garbage, do you think the Republicans are going to let Kamala Harris pass anything in the unlikely event that she's elected? And I don't think she's going to be elected at this point. But on the other side of the coin, if Trump's elected, they're going to go after him. They're not going to stop. And they're going to do everything that they can to block everything that he proposes. So I think we have to be prepared for that. And I was on Andrea's show last week. I think we also have to be prepared, regrettably, and it's frightening, for extreme violence in the streets, because I think the country is going to go up in flames either way, probably more if Trump is elected. And this is something I think we need to be prepared for.
Yeah, I think, if I may, you make a great point, and I think that's one of the things that I started off with. I went to law school to work in government to serve the public in the way that I could, and I think that so I'm not a personality. I'm not a television personality or a radio host, but I think that you highlighted the exact issue of why we need to find the common ground. It's both directions. The other night at the Garden, there were some awful things about every Democrat. So I instead of getting into the back and forth, which I think is just a waste of time, I think the most productive thing is to find the places where we can find some progress, whether it's abortion in certain circumstances or to a certain point, taxes to a certain degree, tariffs are useful in certain circumstances. And I think that's the only way that anything gets done. Honorable compromise, pragmatism with priorities. And so I appreciate your comment. I think you've highlighted probably one of the biggest issues above all the issues about getting anything done is we need to respect each other. We need to put aside any of the recriminations and the finger pointing and the blaming back and forth and say, let's figure out where we can agree and move forward.
I agree with that, Ben. And Larry, thank you. Thank you for your comments. And, we have a couple of minutes before close. Let's talk about immigration and the border. Let's start with you, Steven. What are your thoughts on that? We're going to go in order. We're going to go Steven. We're going to go Andrea. We're going to go back to Ben, Dr. Mantell, and with James. Everyone has about 90 seconds due to time constraints. Steven, what is your thoughts about immigration and the border security?
Everybody have 45 seconds. 45 seconds.
Sure. I'd love to see a president that does two things. One is I'd like to see a secure border. I do support that. But the president at the same time, whoever that is, needs to solve the issue that we have here, which is you have families that have lived here and been paying taxes and have children that are American citizens, and you can't, I don't believe at least, you can deport them and leave their kids stuck here as Americans. You're not going to revoke citizenship of Americans. I don't, if kids were born here, that's the law of the land at the time. Whether or not that's the right law is, I know, something that's been discussed. But the fact is, birthright citizenship exists, and those families that, again, have been here for decades, paying taxes and living in the shadows, is not safe for America either. And it's really, I don't believe it's realistic to round up 12 million people and deport them. So the president, whoever that is, needs to secure the border day one and come up with a solution of how we resolve the frankly proud Americans who are not American citizens that have been in this country paying taxes. We got to find a solution for that in order to move forward. And that, again, that can only happen. I think you only get buy-in of Americans if the border is secure, so that this doesn't become a perpetual problem in the future. But the fact is, it's a problem that we've created under many Republican and Democratic presidencies, and someone needs to solve it once and for all.
Thank you, Steven. Andrea, what are your comments about the border security, immigration for time?
Well, you can't have a nation. You don't have national sovereignty if you don't have a border. And this has been an orchestrated invasion. They revoked 94 executive orders under Trump to specifically and intentionally and willfully flood our nation with upwards of different numbers of 15 to 20 million illegal aliens in this country. Upwards of 300,000 of them are special interest aliens identified as those coming from terrorist countries. Over 600,000 of them are convicted murderers and rapists and other criminals from other countries. It is absolutely unsustainable from national security and from an economic standpoint, and every last one of them should be deported. And I don't know how many of them have been here are married to American citizens and have suddenly magically in the past 2 years popped out babies with birthright citizenship. Each and every one of them needs to be deported.
Thank you, Andrea. Ben?
I think that if you look at the history of our country, you see that we are a nation of immigrants. We need to have borders. We need to have secure borders. I think like almost every other issue that we've discussed or that can be discussed, these are very nuanced concepts. And there are issues of, as Steven raised, there's humanity involved, there are children. And I think that a bumper sticker idea of deport them all is dangerous and it's inhumane. I'd like to find, again, where we can say who should be deported. There are certain people that clearly should be. Let's talk about that. Yeah.
Dr. Mantell and to James.
Well, as a moderator, I'll keep my opinion about this very short. I agree with what we've heard so far. We can't deport all. And using language like that, like they're fascists, they're Hitler, they're this. We have to be careful in the language we use. Some people need to be deported. Some people need to be arrested. Some people need punishment. For me, the issue of the border is safety and economy. That's my major concern. So I'll stop with that because we can go on forever. And Dr. Cooley, who's on mute right now, is going to take himself off mute so he can talk to us.
James, you're on mute.
Oh, we lost them all together.
No, he's still
James,
here.
where are you?
Hey, audience, thank you.
We're
Thank
going to look
you.
at potentially doing this again Tuesday. Michelle and I are going to look at that. I want to thank the panel for tuning into the show. I'd like to thank KCBQ AM 7 The Answer. I tell you, I'd like to thank our viewers and listeners. I tell you, we're going to try to do this again Tuesday. So lock back in because we got a lot to discuss. Remember, it's your life. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place. See you then.
Wake up. It's time to vote no on Proposition 5.
Proposition 5? What's that?
Proposition 5 makes it easier for politicians